In this lab, we asked the question, what is the distribution of the data set? And a critical thing for data analysts or anyone looking at data is say, what does it look like? So we have a data set that in Excel looks like this. You can kind of see, we have invoice numbers, transaction amounts, and transaction types. And we're being asked to summarize that. And so specifically the question is, what is the distribution of this data set? So to get started, let's go ahead and select new chat, or we could just write in start a new chat. And so we're ready to go. The next thing we're going to do after we've defined our question is we're going to upload the data. And so here's the data file, which you'll note is in your notes. And we're just going to go ahead and hit enter, and so it will open it. And so here's the file as it looks like. I often like to look around and see if it's all there, and so usually I'll ask it to do something like please display the last 5 lines of data, and so that I can see exactly is there. I can go check my original data source and see if everything there is as intended. Now I could have just gone back up here and looked at the last 5, or I could just go ahead and have it print out. And here it's now has, because I've given it some headers, it's going to know some information. I can often check those. I can ask for a data dictionary and see what it interpreted it to be. But I'm really interested in the distribution specifically of the transaction amount. And so as I start to look at this data set, I'm going to go ahead and ask it to provide summary statistics. Now, summary statistics and descriptive statistics in my mind is about the same. That we would probably call this descriptive analytics, which is kind of summarize the data. And so that's exactly what we're doing, is we're summarizing the data. And so you could guess with summary statistics it would be like mean, median, mode, 25th percentile, standard deviation, kind of your standard that you would expect to see. And these are items I can check to make sure that the data set is read in completely. I've found sometimes that ChatGPT is a little bit lazy in providing or accessing all the data, and so I feel like I'd like to check it. The next thing we're going to do is do a box plot. As you recall, a box plot will show the extremes and also the quartiles and kind of show where the mean is and the median is. And so I'm just asking it directly to provide a box plot. I'm also saying, hey, exactly which data to do it on. So it's on that transaction amount data. So I can see that. And so here it is. You can see it's certainly skewed toward the bottom end, the smaller. It looks like at least what it would define to be as outliers. So here would be kind of the natural end, but then it's got kind of 4 outliers potentially, or at least items of significant interest that we might want to look at. And so as we do this, we might want to ask more specifically to do this now by transaction type. So we did summary statistics before, but now we're trying to learn everything about it. So how is this different for online versus in-person sales? And so let's go ahead and ask it to do that, because that is the transaction type. I'm asking specifically for mean, median, mode, and standard deviation, mostly to see if these look very different from each other. And so it's going to provide those descriptive statistics or summary statistics for me, and should provide them by transaction type. So wait a second for this to complete. And provide that, so you can kind of see the mean, median, standard deviation, and the mode there provided for each of them. And so this would readily say it looks like the online purchase is greater, or the transaction is greater. Also has a greater standard deviation, so much wider out there. And now I'm going to ask it to do essentially the same thing, but now a box plot. But I'm going to ask it to do it by transaction type, and this time instead of saying transaction type, I've gone ahead and specified I'd like you to do it by in-person sales, and for online sales essentially by transaction type. So this is kind of meant to show some flexibility out there in your wording. Didn't have to say exactly transaction type, but it knows that there are in-person as well as online sales. And so you can kind of see these. We decided in our basic statistics that online had a higher mean and a higher max and higher standard deviation, all of which you can kind of see in this box plot here. So as we work to complete these labs, and these labs aren't long, they're just meant to kind of do a task. Now I want to be able to communicate these, so I'm going to ask it to output that box plot as a PNG file. And so it will do that and allow me to download it. And then finally I'm going to ask it to display the prompts, and that's just so I can see what instructions it was given in case I wanted to follow up or modify them further. So here's the box plot. I can click on that and I can see that it will show up here as a box plot, as a PNG file that I can go access. And here I've asked it to now display the prompts and do it specifically in a Microsoft Word file that might be used here. So as it works to complete that, I don't know, we did 5 or 6 instructions, and it will provide that as a Microsoft Word file. So we'll just wait a second here and see if it's able to complete the task for us. So here's the file that was generated. I can download it and include it there. I always like pointing out that after every instruction there's some Python code, and so here's an example of that code that said, hey, put it to a file. Every time we asked it to do something, it generates code that we could either tweak or modify, or we could see more specifically how it was done, or we could copy and paste this into our own Python document. But at least we can kind of see what it performs, so it's just not like some complete unknown of what it's done. So that completes this lab.